The economic growth story really is a very positive story. I mean, I think the best example I have of that is you look at China. So in 2006, China passed the U.S. As the number one source of CO2 emissions in the world. And a lot of that, I mean, China's been growing at 10% a year for 30 years. And having been there, you know, yes, they have some environmental problems, some other problems, but they've also experienced a great deal of growth in living standards. And I guess as an economist, I have to say I sort of hope that that wave of development continues in India and Africa and other places in the world where people don't have access to electricity, transportation, to the things that we sort of take for granted. So in 2006, China passed the U.S. to be the number one CO2 emitter in the world. Roughly this year, next year, China will be at double U.S. levels in terms of CO2. And even at double U.S. levels, China has 4 times more people than the U.S. does. So even at double U.S. levels, China is at half our level per capita. So that gives you really a sense of the magnitude of the challenge that we face. And that's why I like to talk about this 5 Chinas theory of the world that I have. And we talk about this in the book as well. If you divide the world up into these 5 Chinas, like I was suggesting, you get, in very broad strokes, to overgeneralize, you get a white person, a black person, and 3 Asian people. Right? And that's a good way to think about the world. And most of the people in that story are poor. And so the economic growth angle is an important one. It's one that's almost certainly going to happen over the course of this century. I would argue as an economist that we would like to have it happen over the course of this century. And then I think the second story is dealing with the environmental impacts of having 7 or 9 billion or 11 billion people living the lifestyles that we live.